You know, some people are just born to serve, wouldn't you agree?
A maid? In my ballroom? If she dares dance this waltz, she will marry my son. The millionaire's words cracked across the hall like a whip. Guests erupted in cruel laughter, eyes narrowing toward the young black maid clutching the tray against her chest. The crowd wanted to spectacle her shame, her stumble, her fall. But what they didn't know was this: she had once been a champion. And tonight, her silence would roar louder than their mockery. The ballroom glowed with chandeliers, their golden lights spilling across marble floors polished to a mirror's shine. The air was thick with perfume, champagne bubbles, and cruel laughter. At the center of it all stood the maid Althea. She wore no diamonds, no silk, only her plain uniform and the steady rhythm of her own heartbeat. The millionaire's demand still hung in the air. Dance this waltz, and you marry my son, his. Voice had dripped with arrogance, each word sharpened by condescension. He hadn't made an offer, he had staged a trap. To humiliate her. To prove to his wealthy guests that some people were meant only to serve. Eyes cut into her from every corner of the hall. Some mocked openly, whispering insults. Others turned away, unwilling to stop it, yet unwilling to bear witness. The young heir, the son at the center of this cruel bargain, shifted uncomfortably, his silence almost as sharp as the mockery itself. But Althea did not flinch. She stood still, tray pressed against her trembling hands, her face calm, but her heart ablaze. She remembered. She remembered music. She remembered light. She remembered being more than a uniform. Years ago, Althea had been a dancer. Not just a dancer, she had been a champion. She had tasted applause, twirled in gowns that caught the light, lifted her chin before audiences that adored her. Dance had been her second language, her escape, her dream. But dreams were fragile, and when her mother fell ill, Althea had laid down her satin shoes to pick up an apron. Every trophy she had earned gathered dust in a forgotten attic, sacrificed for survival. The millionaire knew nothing of this. To him, she was only a maid, a shadow, a nobody. Yet in her silence, power stirred. The orchestra hesitated, uncertain whether to play. And then, with one quiet breath, Althea set the tray down and extended her hand, not to beg, not to comply, but to claim the very stage meant to shame her. A gasp rippled through the hall as the violins began and she moved. Not awkwardly, not timidly, but with a grace that split the silence like thunder. Her steps were fluid, precise, and fierce. Each turn shimmered with defiance. Each glide across marble whispered rebellion. The guests' laughter faltered, replaced by stunned silence. They had expected a stumble. Instead, they witnessed art. The waltz unfolded like a storm disguised. As poetry, Althea's movements told a story of sacrifice, of buried dreams, of dignity that refused to die. She danced for her mother. She danced for every insult she had swallowed. She danced for every person ever silenced by wealth and power. The son, pale and hesitant, finally stepped forward. His hand reached for hers, guided not by command but by reverence. Together, they moved as though bound by an unspoken truth. Gasps. Rose again, softer now, laced with awe. The millionaire's face hardened. His game had twisted against him. His cruelty had built a stage not for mockery, but for her triumph. When the final note soared and fell, the ballroom erupted, not in laughter, but in thunderous applause. Guests stood, clapping, some even wiping tears they could not explain. Respect had replaced ridicule. Awe had erased mockery. Althea lifted her chin, and for the first time that night spoke. Her voice was calm, yet each word struck like a hammer. Respect cannot be given by wealth. It is earned by humanity. The room froze, her words echoing long after silence returned. And then she added softly, but unmistakably, dignity dances louder than cruelty. Her words lingered. Unforgettable. The millionaire, stripped of his pride, could. Only watch as the very crowd he sought to entertain now turned on him, their applause carrying Althea higher than his wealth ever could. That night, the maid who had been mocked left the ballroom not as a servant, but as a symbol, a reminder that silence is not weakness, that dignity, carried with patience and courage, can move mountains. Respect is not bought with riches, nor given through cruelty. It is born in the way we treat each other, in silence and strength, in grace. Althea's story reminds us that dignity is unshakable, and sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest victories. Wherever you are watching from, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever seen silent strength rise against injustice? Tell us below and subscribe for more. Stories that honor the heroes who fight their battles with grace instead of noise.